At the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico City, Lee Evans put on quite a show. Battling with Larry Freeman on the straight, he managed to get to the line ahead of his fellow countrymen to win the 400-meter Olympic title. Even more impressive was the fact he was able to crack the previous 400-meter world record of 44.1 seconds, with his time of 43.86 seconds, being the first man to break the 44-second barrier, followed by Larry James, who finished that same race in 43.97 seconds. That record stood invincible for many years, with many high-caliber 400-meter athletes failing to get to the mark. It was not until 19 years later that Butch Reynolds would change history. On the 17th of August 1988, 3 months shy of what would be the 20th anniversary of the Lee Evans 400-meter world record, Butch Reynolds stood confidently behind his adversary, Innocent Egbeniki, a man who was being groomed by Lee Evans himself to take down his world record. Reynolds knew Egbeniki's strategy quite well. Knowing this, Reynolds decided to stick to his game plan, even though he suffered a loss at his hands a year earlier at the World Championships. When the gun signaled them to run, rather than being aggressive and attack the first 100 meters, Reynolds focused on getting to a rhythm he would like to run the race, going through the first 100 meters in 11.3 seconds. This approach is built on his philosophy of running the 400-meter even, which helps an optimal distribution of energy at all segments of the race. Given that acceleration takes time, when he was fully at his goal pace, he continued to maintain his technique and used his coordination to keep his speed through the second 100-meter, recording 10.1. At this point, his position in the field was set. Despite steadily accelerating, he was still in striking distance. At the strike of the 300-meter mark, the strategy started to show its superiority, with most of the opposition already fading, and despite him beginning to decelerate too, which wasn't by much as his third 100-meter split was 10.6 seconds, just losing 0.5 seconds between those two 100-meter segments. As anyone would know, the fact that he is decelerating less than his opponents in the final 100-meter meant that the race was his to win. Having distributed his speed properly over the first 3 sections of the race meant he had enough energy to maintain his technique and apply as much force as possible. With that, he tore away from the field, left everyone struggling, and marched his massive frame to the line to stop the clock in 43.29 seconds. An incredible run, lowering the previous world record by half a second, the biggest margin ever created with a new world record in the history of the event. 32 years later, that time still remains as the third fastest time ever ran by a human being, which is impressive, seeing that Reynolds only had a personal best of 20.4 seconds. And that is much slower than Michael Johnson's 200-meter PB, and half a second slower than Wade's. But yet they aren't far away as it regards 400-meter personal bests. The fact that he could manage to run the 400-meter in that fast time with his 200-meter personal best, and with most 400-meter sprinters today having that personal best, even failing to go under 44 seconds, shows just how Reynolds' strategy puts him head and shoulders above the rest. But more importantly, it shows just how fast sprinters can go today with proper speed distribution.
Butch Reynolds is coming away, all 6'3" of him. He brings Steve Lewis with him, the 19-year-old, and Danny Everett will be third. And look at that! He's done it! The world record is his at sea level!